The smell of lavender and sage filled the pack house, thick enough to choke on. It was meant to calm us, but all it did was sharpen the tension crawling through every hallway. Outside my small attic window, the forest stirred as if it were alive and restless. Leaves shivered and branches sighed, even though the air was still. It felt like the woods already knew what tonight would bring. The mating ceremony came only once every 10 years, when the moon reached its peak and fate loosened its grip just enough for true mates to feel each other. For every unmated female between 18 and 30, showing up wasn't a choice. It was the law, except for me. I sat alone in the attic, sunlight slanting through the dusty glass while specks floated in the air. My fingers traced the rough wood of the windowsill, worn down by years of neglect. Below me, I could see the other girls preparing, silk dresses draped over their bodies, perfume sprayed into their hair. Their laughter drifted upward, light and careless as it belonged to another world, a world I was never meant to step into. You understand why this has to happen, don't you, Alara? My stepmother's voice echoed in my head, sweet as sugar and just as sharp underneath. Her hand had pressed firmly on my shoulder when she brought me here earlier that day. With your limitations, it would be cruel to let you take part. Hope only hurts when it's false. My limitation was simple, I wasn't whole. In a pack where power was everything, I was the wolf who never fully shifted. My transformations always stopped halfway, bones aching, magic stalling, my body betraying me every time. The pack whispered about weak blood, about diluted magic. While my father lived, he shielded me from their cruelty. But he'd been gone for 3 winters now, and Vivian wasted no time reminding everyone exactly where I belonged. I twisted a lock of my pale blonde hair around my finger. It stood out painfully against the darker shades common in our pack, another mark of difference. Another reason to keep me hidden. On the small table beside my bed lay the only thing my mother left me, a silver pendant etched with a crescent moon cradling a tiny star. She had pressed it into my palm when I was 6, her voice thin but steady. Remember, Starlight, she'd whispered, even the smallest light can guide you through the dark. I'd worn it every day since. Its weight against my skin was a quiet comfort, proof that I still belonged to someone even if the pack refused to claim me. As dusk crept in, the noise below grew louder. Drums began to beat, slow, deep, and powerful. They weren't calling me, they never were. I rested my forehead against the cool window, feeling the vibrations travel through the glass and into my bones. A soft knock broke the silence. Ara. Mira's voice came through the door, low and urgent. Are you dressed? I don't have much time. My heart jumped. I hurried to unlock the door and pulled her inside, glancing toward the stairs. You shouldn't be here, I whispered. If Vivian sees you, they're about to start the procession, Mira said, ignoring my fear. Her dark eyes burned with resolve as she shoved a bundle into my arms, which is exactly why I brought this. I unfolded the fabric, breath-catching. A simple dress spilled out, pale blue like a winter sky just before snowfall. Beautiful, too beautiful for me. Mira, I can't. Yes, you can. She was already unfastening my dull gray dress. Your father was an elder, you have every right to stand there. You know it's not that easy. My fingers closed around my pendant. Memories clawed at me the last time I tried to join a pack gathering, the stares, the whispers, the humiliation. You were 15 then, she said gently. This is different. Then she hesitated, lowering her voice. And the Alpha King is here. My pulse stumbled. What? King Nathaniel never comes to ceremonies like this, Mira said, but he did tonight. People say he's finally searching for his queen. A sharp, almost bitter laugh rose in my chest. Queens didn't come from broken half-wolves. Alphas chose strength, not weakness. Still, as Mira helped me into the dress, something stirred deep inside me. Not hope, I'd buried that long ago, but a quiet, dangerous curiosity. The Alpha King was a legend. His territory was the strongest of all 5. Stories of his battles, his brutality toward enemies, and his fierce loyalty to his people had reached even me. Mira stepped back when she finished braiding my hair, fastening small crystal clips that caught the fading light. There, she said softly, now you look like who you really are. I smoothed my hands over the fabric, my chest tight. How do I get past Vivian? Her lips curved into a sly smile. She's too busy making sure her daughters shine brightest tonight. The kitchen entrance is empty. When the 3rd horn sounds, take the servant stairs, follow the stream, and don't stop until you reach the clearing. Fear curled in my stomach. Danger waited out there, wolves, fate, rejection, but beneath it all something else burned quietly. Courage. The 1st horn echoed in the distance, sharp and sudden, and we both flinched. I have to go, Mira said quickly, gripping my hands as if she was afraid I might vanish. Her eyes searched mine. Promise you'll come. Before I could answer properly, she turned and disappeared into the corridor. I stood there alone, frozen, the hem of my dress whispering against my legs. The 2nd horn sounded lower, deeper. The floor beneath my feet seemed to hum with it, as if the sound had bones of its own. My hand drifted to my mother's pendant without thinking. I traced its worn edges, grounding myself the way I always did. Even the smallest light can guide you through the darkest night. Her voice lived in that thought. When the third horn called, I was already moving. I slipped down the narrow servant staircase, my heart slamming against my ribs harder than my steps on the wood. Each breath felt too loud, too risky. By the time I reached the bottom, my palms were damp and my pulse was racing out of control. The forest swallowed me whole and somehow it felt like relief. Branches shifted overhead as if recognizing me, allowing strips of moonlight to spill across the path. Leaves rustled softly, guiding rather than blocking me. I followed the stream just as Mira had told me to, its quiet gurgle steadying my nerves while distant drums began to rise ahead. Voices layered over the rhythm, growing louder with every step. The air changed. Smoke from ceremonial fires mixed with incense, thick and sweet, tangled with the raw, earthy scent of wolves and humans gathered together without masks. Power lived in that smell. Instinct, truth. I stopped at the edge of the clearing. Hundreds of wolves filled the sacred ground, members of neighboring packs, their presence heavy and electric. Energy pressed against my skin, prickling like static. At the center roared a massive bonfire, flames stretching upward as if reaching for the full moon hanging low above us. And there on the raised dais sat the Council of Elders, and him, even from far away, there was no mistaking the Alpha King. Nathaniel Blackthorn didn't need to move to dominate the space. The air itself seemed to bend around him. His shoulders were broad beneath a black cloak darker than the surrounding night, his face hard and carved by both birthright and battle. Power clung to him like a second skin. But it was his stillness that unsettled me most. Others spoke, shifted, laughed nervously. He didn't. He remained unmoving, absolute, like the world had learned to crash against him instead of daring to pass through. I shouldn't be here. Panic finally caught up to me. This was reckless, insane. I took a step back, already preparing to melt into the trees, when a group of laughing females brushed past me. Their movement forced me forward. Firelight spilled over my skin. For one fragile heartbeat, no one noticed. I lowered my head and moved along the edge of the gathering, keeping to the shadows, scanning faces for Mira. The ceremony was already underway. Young females from each pack were being presented one by one before the council and the Alpha King. Most earned only a glance before being dismissed with a formal nod. That was normal. True bonds were rare. Even a king couldn't command fate. I was almost at a stand of trees, almost safe when the drums stopped. The silence was brutal. So complete that the crackle of the bonfire sounded thunderous in my ears. Continue. The voice was deep, calm, unquestionably dominant. The Alpha King had spoken, yet no one moved. A chill crawled down my spine. I turned my head slowly, fear tightening my chest, and froze. Every face was turned toward me. Every eye was locked on my position. At the center of it all, the Alpha King stood. His gaze found mine instantly, cutting through distance and firelight like a blade. You, he said, one word, heavy, inevitable, come forward. My legs refused. They simply wouldn't obey. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Whispers rippled through the crowd, sharp and confused. Who is she? Edward's daughter? She's half-shift. That's impossible. Then a familiar voice sliced through the noise, tight with fury. Era, what are you doing here? Vivian shoved her way toward me, her face twisted with anger and fear she tried to hide. She bowed stiffly. Your Majesty, forgive this intrusion. The girl is unwell. She should not be here. I'll remove her at once. Her fingers clamped around my arm, nails biting into my skin. Shame flooded me, hot and suffocating. I should have known better. I should never have come. Release her. The command fell like steel. The Alpha King was moving toward us now, stepping down from the dais. The crowd parted effortlessly before him. Vivian's grip tightened once, then vanished. He stopped just feet away. I couldn't lift my eyes. The force of him pressed in from all sides, overwhelming my senses, stealing my breath. When his fingers touched my chin and tilted my face upward, a sharp gasp escaped me. The contact burned. Like lightning, painful and intoxicating at the same time. His eyes were amber in the firelight, gold rings blazing around his pupils. They widened slightly as they searched my face, something unreadable flickering beneath the surface. Recognition. What is your name? He asked. His voice was quieter now, but no less powerful. Era, your Majesty. The words left my lips as a whisper. A slow smile curved his mouth, sharp, hungry, claiming. Ara, he said again, rolling my name on his tongue like it already belonged to him. Then he turned to the frozen crowd, his palm still holding my face, thumb warm against my cheek. The ceremony is over, he announced. I have found what I came for. The sound that followed wasn't a cheer. It was a stunned rush of breath like wind tearing through a forest canopy. My head spun. The world felt thin, unreal. This couldn't be happening. He couldn't mean your Majesty, Vivian's voice cut in, tight and frantic. There must be an error. Ara is mine. The single word was a growl, heavy with command. Power rippled through the space and Vivian went silent as if struck. By sacred law, he continued, voice steady and unforgiving, and before all witnesses, I claim this female as my mate. The meaning hit me all at once. My knees weakened. The ground seemed to tilt away beneath my feet. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was the fierce, satisfied glow in the Alpha King's eyes as he reached for me. When I woke, nothing felt real. Silk sheets slid beneath my fingers. Warm, smooth. The air carried the deep, calming scent of sandalwood. I lay still, afraid to move, convinced this was a dream. Above me stretched a vaulted ceiling, carved beams arching overhead like the ribs of some enormous beast. Sunlight poured in through tall windows. This was not my cramped attic room with its cracked boards and damp stains. Memory crashed back in a single wave. The ceremony, the whispers, his voice. I shot upright, gasping, clutching the sheets to my chest. "You're awake?" The voice came from the shadows near the wall, where firelight flickered softly despite the morning sun. He stepped forward and my breath caught in my throat. At night, beneath torchlight and fear, the Alpha King had been terrifying. In daylight, he was devastating. He was tall, broad, built like violence held on a leash. Every step carried quiet strength. A simple black shirt clung to his frame, muscles shifting beneath it. His face looked carved from history itself, strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, and eyes the color of molten gold fixed on me with burning focus. "Where am I?" I asked, though I already knew. "My private chambers at your Pax Lodge," he said calmly, moving closer. "I thought you'd prefer peace after last night's excitement. Humiliation more like I'd collapsed in front of hundreds of wolves from 5 territories. There's been a mistake," I blurted. "You can't want me as your mate." One brow lifted. "I'm not whole," I said, forcing the words past the tightness in my chest. "I can't fully shift. My pack sees me as broken. You're the Alpha King. You need someone strong, someone who won't weaken you." Something dark and dangerous flashed across his face. "Are you rejecting me, little wolf?" The threat was clear. It should have terrified me. Instead, a strange calm settled in my bones. Fear had already shaped my life. What was left to lose? "I'm trying to protect you," I said evenly, meeting his gaze. "An Alpha King bonded to a half-shift female will be mocked. Your enemies will smell weakness." He moved too fast to track. One moment he was standing there, the next, the mattress dipped beneath his knee. He was inches from me. His hand cupped my cheek, rough and warm, his thumb brushing my lower lip in a touch that was both gentle and claiming. "Listen carefully," he said. My name sounded different when he spoke it, softer, dangerous. "I've spent 15 years carving an empire across 5 territories. I've crushed uprisings, forced warring packs into peace. No one dares question my authority." His eyes burned into mine. No one would laugh at my choice of mate. His scent surrounded me, pine, smoke, something wild and unmistakably male. My lungs filled with it. His fingers slid into my hair, cradling the back of my head as if he'd done it 1,000 times before. "And besides," he murmured, his voice dropping low, vibrating through me, "you felt it last night when our eyes met. The bond doesn't wait for permission." I wanted to deny it, I needed to, but the truth lodged in my throat. I had felt it, the pull, the recognition. Something ancient and terrifying. "Why me?" I whispered, out of everyone there. His thumb traced my jaw, slow and deliberate. "The moon chooses," he said, "not logic, not pride." His gaze darkened. "Something in you calls to the most primal part of me." His fingers drifted down my neck, stopping at the hollow of my throat where my mother's pendant rested. "Now tell me," he said quietly, "do you truly feel nothing when I touch you like this?" And that was the most dangerous question of all. The lightest brush of his hand sent a shock through me. It slid down my spine like ice and fire at the same time, leaving my breath tangled in my chest. My body reacted before my mind could catch up, betraying every sensible thought I had. I tried to speak, to explain what I was feeling, but the words fell apart inside me. I had never felt anything like this before, and it overwhelmed me completely. A slow, knowing smile curved his mouth, as if he sensed exactly what was happening to me. Then he stepped back just enough to give me space, and I sucked in a shaky breath like I'd been held underwater. "You'll have time to get used to the idea, Ara," he said calmly. "I'm not a monster who forces himself on unwilling females, no matter what stories you've heard." Relief washed over me, sharp and sudden, and beneath it, to my surprise, a thin thread of disappointment curled tight in my chest. "So you're not claiming me?" I asked quietly. "Oh, I'm claiming you." His voice was firm, unyielding, there was no doubt in it. "But the mating ritual can wait until you're ready. For now, you'll return with me to the capital and take your place as my chosen." The capital. The heart of the Alpha King's power, a place I'd only known through whispered stories and half-forgotten legends. My pulse stumbled. "Your stepmother has no authority over you anymore," he continued. His expression hardened, shadows settling into his features. "Though I admit I'm curious about her behavior last night." "Why would she keep you hidden from the ceremony?" The old shame clawed its way back up my throat. "Because I'm a mistake, because I don't fit." "My father was an elder," I said softly. Respected, strong, having a daughter who couldn't fully shift made people question his judgment. Especially his choice of mate. Your mother? His tone changed, quieter, sharper with interest. I reached for the pendant at my throat without thinking. She died when I was young, she was different like me. My father loved her anyway. But when he died, there was no one left to protect me. His gaze followed my hand. May I? He asked, gesturing toward the necklace. I hesitated, then nodded. His fingers were careful as they lifted the silver crescent and star, cool against my skin. He studied it closely, his touch so gentle it made my chest ache. This symbol, he said quietly, do you know what it means? My mother said it was about guidance in darkness, I replied. That even the smallest light can lead you through the worst night. A shadow crossed his face. It means more than that. He let the pendant fall back against my chest. Much more, but that's a conversation for another time. He straightened. For now, you should prepare. We leave for the capital at midday. So soon. Panic fluttered inside me. I don't have anything packed. I barely have anything at all. Everything you need will be provided, he said, stepping away, unless there's something specific you want to bring. My mind drifted to my attic room, faded dresses, my father's old books, and small forest trinkets I'd collected over the years. None of it mattered. I closed my fingers around the pendant again. This was the only thing I couldn't leave behind. And may I say goodbye to my friend Mira? I asked. He nodded. Of course, I'll send someone to help you. He reached the door, then paused, his hand resting on the latch. One more thing, Ara, you called your inability to fully shift a defect. He turned back, his gaze intense. I don't believe it's a defect at all. I believe it's something rare, valuable, and something your stepmother may have had reason to fear. Before I could ask what he meant, he was gone, leaving silence, questions, and a racing heart behind. Not long after, servants arrived. They weren't pack members I recognized. They moved with quiet confidence and treated me with a careful respect that made my skin prickle. They brought clothes softer and finer than anything I'd ever worn, guided me into a bath scented with herbs and flowers, and dressed my pale blonde hair with patient hands. The whole time, it felt unreal. Like I was watching another girl step into a life that didn't belong to her. Mira found me as I was fastening the last clasp of my dress. She burst into the room, eyes bright with shock and worry, and pulled me into a tight embrace. Ara, she breathed. The entire pack is buzzing. Is it true? Did the Alpha King really choose you? I think so, I said, still struggling to believe it myself. We're leaving for the capital today. The capital? She pulled back, staring at me. This is beyond anything we ever imagined. How do you feel? How did I feel? Terrified, lost, and buzzing with a dangerous kind of excitement. I don't know, I admitted. Everything is happening too fast. Yesterday I was locked in the attic. Today I'm supposed to be the future queen of 5 territories. Her face darkened. Viven is furious. She's telling everyone you tricked him, that you used forbidden magic. A bitter laugh slipped out. Of course she is. No one believes her, Mira said firmly. They saw how he looked at you. Everyone knows what a true mate bond looks like when it starts. A knock cut through the room. The door opened and a tall woman stepped inside with short dark hair, sharp eyes, and the stance of a seasoned warrior. The air shifted the moment she entered. And somehow I knew this was only the beginning. Her face was calm and professional, not cruel. My lady, she said evenly, the king requests you in the main hall. The Pack Alpha wishes to formally recognize your new status before you leave. My stomach twisted so hard it almost hurt. The Pack Alpha, Viven's brother, had let her treat me like nothing more than a servant ever since my father died. Now he wanted a ceremony, now I mattered. Mira squeezed my hand, grounding me. I'll be there, she whispered. This is your moment, Arera, don't forget who you are. Who was I? The question followed me as I trailed behind the female warrior. The corridors felt wrong, too long, too cold, even though I had grown up in this lodge. The walls I knew so well suddenly felt like they belonged to someone else. People stopped to stare as I passed, some looked stunned. Some confused, some are openly hostile. I kept my chin lifted even as my heart slammed against my ribs, loud enough that I was sure others could hear it. The main hall was overflowing with pack members, their bodies packed close, the air thick with heat and tension. At the far end stood Nathaniel. He was impossible to miss. Black and silver marked his formal clothing, sharp and elegant, power stitched into every line. A twisted metal crown rested against dark hair, subtle but unmistakable, Alpha King. Beside him stood Alpha Marcus, my pack's leader, stiff and uneasy. And off to the side, exactly where she wanted to be, stood Viven with her 2 daughters. Their faces were tight, fury barely contained. As I stepped forward, the crowd parted. Whispers followed me like shadows. I locked my focus on Nathaniel, drawing strength from the steady approval in his eyes. Alpha Marcus cleared his throat. Members of the Northern Pine Pack, he began, voice formal, we gather to recognize a moment of great importance. Our pack has been honored by the Alpha King's choice of mate, one from among our own. The words were correct, the tone was not. This was never the alliance he wanted. He had expected a stronger female, someone impressive, someone like Viven's daughters. Ara, he continued, daughter of Elder Edward, step forward and be recognized. I moved until I stood before Nathaniel, spine straight, gaze steady. By the ancient laws that bind all pacts, Alpha Marcus said, you are released from your obligations here and acknowledged as the chosen mate of Alpha King Nathaniel Blackthorn. May the moon bless your union and strengthen the bond between our peoples. There was no warmth in it. No pride, but it was enough. I dipped my head in acceptance, then turned to face the pack just as tradition demanded. That was when Viven spoke. Wait, brother, she said smoothly, stepping forward. Before we send our ward off to the capital, shouldn't we make sure the Alpha King understands her condition? A low growl rolled from Nathaniel's chest, vibrating through the room. Viven ignored it. We wouldn't want His Majesty discovering too late, she continued, eyes sharp with cruelty, that his chosen mate can barely summon claws, let alone complete a full shift. What kind of queen would that make her? And what kind of heirs could she possibly give him? The hall froze. Nathaniel's voice cracked through the silence like a whip. He stepped to my side, his hand firm and possessive at the small of my back. The contact sent heat through me, steady, protective. I am fully aware of Ara's nature, he said coldly. And I value it far more than the brute strength so many of you worship. The pressure in the room intensified, his power flooding the space until breathing felt difficult. His gaze never left Viven. In fact, he added softly, dangerously, I find myself wondering why you worked so hard to keep her hidden. What frightened you so much, Viven? Her face drained of color. I was protecting her, she said quickly. And the pack's reputation, were you? Nathaniel's smile never reached his eyes. Interesting, because your protection looked a lot like a cage. He turned to the pack, his arm sliding fully around my waist. Let me be clear, he said. Ara is under my protection now. Any disrespect shown to her will be treated as a direct offense against me. His gaze swept the hall. And I trust none of you are foolish enough to offend your king. The threat hung heavy and unmistakable. I should have felt safe, relieved. Instead, something cold settled deep in my stomach. This wasn't just about a mate bond. Something else was moving beneath the surface, something I didn't understand yet. Secrets were being kept from me. As we left the hall, I glanced back one last time. Viven met my gaze. Behind her rage and humiliation, I saw it clearly. Fear. The journey to the capital lasted 3 days, though it felt like crossing into another world. I had never left our territory before, and the view from the king's lavish caravan held me spellbound. Dense forests faded into rolling hills. Hills stretched into wide-open plains where grass rippled like water beneath the wind. With every mile, the life I knew slipped further behind me, and whatever waited ahead drew closer. Nathaniel was a mystery I could never fully read. Some days he sat across from me for hours, asking about my childhood, my thoughts, the little things that made me smile, and the memories that still hurt. He listened closely as if every word mattered. Other times, he pulled away into a quiet distance, his gaze turning inward, locked on thoughts he never shared. At night, he kept a careful boundary between us, arranging separate rooms despite the curious looks from his guards. He never crossed that line, and somehow that restraint made his presence feel heavier, more intense. On the last day of our journey, the road began to rise as we approached the mountain pass that led to the capital. Nathaniel joined me by the window, his closeness warming the air between us. The guards rode ahead far enough that his voice dropped low. Tell me what's on your mind, he said. I hesitated, fear tightening my chest, then chose honesty. I told him I didn't understand why I was here at all. Why had he chosen me? His fingers brushed mine where they rested on the wooden sill, the light touch sending a sharp spark through my body. Is it so hard to believe the moon chose you for me? He asked. I admitted it was. I'd spent my whole life being told I wasn't enough. Being placed here surrounded by luxury felt like a mistake that would soon be taken back. His expression hardened at that. He spoke of my stepmother, of the damage she had done, but I shook my head. It wasn't just her. It was the whole pack system, obsessed with strength and pure blood. I had always been reminded that I didn't fully belong. His hand covered mine then, steady and warm, grounding me. He told me strength came in many forms. Enduring cruelty without becoming cruel yourself was rare, precious. His thumb traced slow circles on my wrist as he said my bloodline wasn't weak, just different. There was that feeling again that he knew more than he was saying. Before I could ask, he turned toward the window. Look, he said, your first sight of Blackthorn City. The breath left my lungs as we crested the pass. The valley opened wide beneath us, and the capital spread across it like something out of a dream. Stone buildings climbed the slopes, red roofs glowing in the afternoon sun. At the center stood a towering structure of dark stone and glass commanding everything around it, the palace. It's beautiful, I whispered. It's home, he replied. And now it's yours too. As we descended, people appeared along the road, more and more with every turn. They waved, called out, tossed flowers and small offerings toward the caravan. Nathaniel lifted a hand in acknowledgement, his posture calm and powerful, every inch their king. He told me they'd already heard about me. Wolf Lands carried news quickly. My stomach tightened as I asked what they knew. A faint smile touched his lips. They knew their king had found his mate, that she had hair like moonlight, that she carried herself with quiet dignity despite years of mistreatment. Heat rushed to my face. I accused him of telling stories. He said it was the truth, though he'd spared them the part where I fainted in his arms when he claimed me. That discretion, he said, was a kindness. I laughed then, a real startled sound that surprised even me. His reaction told me it mattered. The city overwhelmed me as we entered, noise, sense, movement, all pressing in at once. I shrank back without thinking, fear rising fast. Nathaniel's arm came around me, firm and protective. Breathe, he murmured into my hair. They're only curious. In time, they'll love you. He stopped suddenly. I asked quietly, as what? His eyes met mine, fierce and unguarded. As I'm beginning to, he said. The words lingered between us, heavy and dangerous, and neither of us reached for them. I turned back to the window as the palace loomed closer. Guards in silver and black lined the paths, leading to massive doors carved with a great wolf howling at the moon, the mark of the Blackthorn dynasty. The caravan came to a halt. Welcome to your new home, Ara, Nathaniel said. Are you ready? I was, not truly. But I nodded. My mother's pendant rested heavily against my chest, reminding me of where I came from and the quiet strength she'd given me. Whatever waited beyond those doors, I would face it. The hours that followed blurred together, endless introductions. Faces and names I struggled to remember. Advisors, servants, nobles from powerful families. I smiled, nodded, and endured. And beneath it all, fear and courage twisted together inside me, steadying my steps as I crossed fully into a world that would test everything I was. I could barely keep up with all the faces and names swirling around me. If Nathaniel hadn't stayed close, steady and solid at my side, I think I would have been completely lost. Lydia helped too, the female warrior from my pack lodge. Somewhere along the way, she'd been assigned as my personal guard, though no one had bothered to ask my opinion. When we finally found a quiet moment, she leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. Don't stress about remembering everyone, she said. Most of them aren't here for you. They're here to judge you and report back to their packs. To judge me, I repeated. A chill ran through me, sharp and sudden, even though the palace air was warm. Lydia didn't soften the truth. Her eyes held sympathy, but no lies. You're an unknown factor. The Alpha King has never shown interest in choosing a mate before. Now he returns with you, someone no one has heard of, from a small northern pack. Someone broken, I muttered before I could stop myself. Her expression hardened. Don't say that where the king might hear you. He's fiercely protective of you. Before I could respond, a servant appeared and bowed, announcing it was time to escort me to my chambers. My chambers, they were larger than the entire upper floor of my old pack lodge. The rooms were calm and quiet, dressed in soft blues and silver tones that felt cool and soothing to the eyes. Nothing was flashy, but everything was flawless. The servant explained that the Alpha King wanted me to rest before dinner and pointed out features I barely understood: heated floors, private sitting rooms, and shelves already stocked with books. He requests your presence in the small dining hall at 8 if you feel able, the servant said gently. When I was finally alone, I wandered from room to room in disbelief, my fingers brushing over smooth stone and fine fabric. The bath held a deep, sunken tub already filled with steaming, scented water. Clean clothes rested neatly on the bed, simple, elegant, and somehow fitted exactly to my body, as if they had been made for me alone. I sank into the bath and stayed there until my skin wrinkled, staring at the ceiling while my thoughts spun. 4 days ago, I had been a half-shift hidden in an attic, a secret, a shame, someone meant to stay out of sight. Now I was what? The Alpha King's chosen mate. The words sounded unreal, heavy, dangerous. I didn't know what that future looked like, or if it even belonged to me. As dinner time drew close, I dressed in a deep blue gown that made my pale hair glow almost silver under the lamplight. I fastened my mother's pendant around my neck, my fingers lingering over the familiar weight when a knock sounded at the door. Nathaniel stood in the corridor, no longer in travel-worn clothes. His formal attire highlighted the strength of his frame, broad shoulders tapering into lean muscle. For a long moment, he just looked at me, his expression open and unguarded. "You're breathtaking," he said quietly, then offered his arm. I took it, painfully aware of his warmth through the thin fabric. "Thank you for the rooms and the clothes, they're beautiful. Do you like them?" He asked. "They can be changed if you want something else." "No," I said quickly, "they're perfect, I'm just not used to having space." His jaw tightened, anger flickered across his face, sharp and controlled. "You'll never be confined again, Ara," he said firmly. "I promise you that." The small dining hall was nothing like the grand chambers I'd glimpsed earlier. It was intimate, almost private, with a table set for only two. Candlelight danced across stone walls, shadows gathering softly in the corners. "I thought you might want something quieter," Nathaniel said as he pulled out my chair. "Court dinners can be overwhelming." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you, I don't think I could handle a crowd tonight." Servants brought wine and a delicate dish of fish I didn't recognize. When we were finally alone, I noticed Nathaniel watching me with an intensity that made my chest tighten, half nerves, half something warmer. "You have questions," he said calmly. "I can see them in your eyes." I took a sip of wine, gathering courage. Too many to count. That earned a real smile, softening the hard lines of his face. "Start with one." I hesitated, then touched the pendant at my throat. "At the lodge, you recognized this. You said it meant more than I knew. What did you mean?" His expression turned serious. He set his fork down. "You're observant," he said. "I like that." The air felt heavier as he continued. "The symbol on your pendant, the crescent moon holding a star, is the mark of the moon speakers." The words felt strange as I repeated them silently. Moon speakers. "They were an ancient bloodline," he said, his gaze steady on mine. "Wolves with gifts beyond strength or speed. They advised kings, healed the wounded, and kept peace between packs." "I've never heard of them," I whispered. "Few have," he replied. "They were believed to be gone for generations." The way he looked at me then, focused, searching, made my pulse race, and suddenly the pendant at my neck felt heavier than ever before. Their strength didn't come from claws or muscle. It came from the moon itself, from the ancient magic that ruled every wolf alive. I frowned, my thoughts stumbling over the idea. "And you believe my mother was one of them?" I asked quietly. "A moon speaker?" "I don't believe it," Nathaniel said. "I know it." He reached across the table, his fingers grazing the pendant resting against my chest. The light caught the stone, pale and soft like trapped moonlight. "This isn't decoration," he said. "It's a focus stone. Moon speakers passed it down, generation to generation. Your mother didn't give this to you by accident. She knew what you would become." The room tilted, my stomach tightened as the ground beneath me shifted without warning. His words were too heavy to hold all at once. "That can't be true," I whispered. "I can barely shift. I don't have any power." His voice stayed calm, almost kind. "Are you sure? Haven't you ever known things before they were said? Felt someone else's pain or fear as if it belonged to you? Haven't animals come to you when they were hurt? Plants grow better under your hands?" My breath hitched. Images flooded my mind, the injured fox that had limped straight to me in the forest, the dead garden behind the house that bloomed after I worked in it for days. The way I sometimes understood people before they spoke, emotions settling in my chest without warning. "These are small signs," Nathaniel continued. "Moon speakers don't awaken all at once. Their power usually surfaces after their 21st year. Strong emotions often trigger it." His expression darkened. "Your stepmother may have suspected. That would explain why she kept you alone. Why did she bar you from moon rituals?" "But why?" I asked, but my voice barely sounded. "Why be afraid of that?" "Because power frightens those who don't control it," he said. "Moon speakers once held enormous influence. Some alphas hated that, especially the weak ones." He leaned closer. "Your birthday, when is it?" 3 weeks, I said. A shiver ran through me, something sharp and pleased flashed in his eyes. "The autumn equinox," he murmured. "Perfect. For what?" "For you to claim your legacy." He took my hand. His thumb brushed my palm, slow and steady, sending warmth up my arm. "And for our mating ceremony." The world narrowed until all I could feel was his skin against mine, heat spiraling through my chest. "You still want this?" I asked. "Even knowing what I might be?" He said my name as if it mattered. "I want you because of what you are. Do you understand what that means?" I pressed. "An alpha king bonded to a moonspeaker. It hasn't happened in centuries." "Exactly," he said. "Together we could change everything, unite the territories, end conflicts no one else could." His voice carried hunger, not just desire, but ambition. That was what made me pull my hand away. "Is that why you chose me?" I asked softly. "For power?" He froze. "Is that truly what you think?" "You recognized my pendant at the ceremony," I said. "You knew what it meant before you ever claimed me." The truth settled into place, cold and clear. "You didn't choose me because of fate, you saw an opportunity." Nathaniel turned away, pacing to the window. Moonlight spilled across the stone floor, washing his back in silver. His shoulders were tight, his hands clenched. "Yes," he said at last. "I recognized the pendant. I understood what it could mean." He faced me again, his eyes glowing in the dim light. "But if you think that's the only reason, you're wrong." In 3 strides, he was in front of me, lifting me to my feet. His hand cradled my face, firm but gentle, forcing me to meet his gaze. "I've ruled for 15 years, he said quietly. 15 years of strength, fear, and hard choices. I've trusted no one completely." His thumb brushed my lips, slow, deliberate, my breath caught. "Do you really think I would bind myself for life for politics alone?" His voice softened. The moment I saw you at the edge of that clearing, trying to disappear, I felt it. Call it fate. Call it the moon. I don't care. He leaned closer, giving me time to step back. I didn't. His lips touched mine, light and questioning, not a command, not a claim, and despite the doubts screaming in my head, I leaned in. My hands clenched in his shirt as the kiss deepened, slow at first, then stronger. His arms wrapped around me fully, protective and unyielding. Fear, attraction, danger, comfort, all of it tangled together as the moon watched in silence. I felt the low vibration of his growl beneath my hand as my fingers slid into his hair, tugging him closer without thinking. His body responded instantly, solid and warm, like he'd been waiting for that touch. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. His face hadn't fully shifted, but his eyes had changed. The familiar amber was gone, replaced by a deep, burning gold that looked more wolf than man. Political advantage, he said, his voice rough, his forehead resting against mine. Is that really what this feels like to you? I couldn't pretend, not with his scent wrapped around me, not with the memory of his mouth still alive on my lips. No, I whispered. It feels like sinking underwater and soaring through the sky at the same time. A slow, knowing smile curved his mouth. Good, he murmured. Hold on to that feeling, little wolf. It's the one thing between us that's real, no matter what doubts try to creep in. The next 3 weeks vanished in a blur of noise and motion. Once word spread that I would soon be officially bound to the Alpha King, the palace filled with visitors from every corner of the 5 territories. Pack leaders arrived with elaborate gifts and polite smiles, all of them watching me with careful interest, clearly wondering who I was and how I'd managed to claim their ruler's attention. My days were no longer my own. Tutors followed me from room to room, trying to squeeze years of court rules into my head in a matter of days. Seamstresses pinned and unpinned gowns until my muscles ached. I met so many people that their names melted together by nightfall. Through it all, Nathaniel came and went like a shadow. Sometimes he stole quiet moments with me in the gardens, hidden between stone walls and moonlit paths. Other times, he joined me for late meals after the court had gone to bed. More often, he was gone entirely, pulled away by the weight of his crown. One night, I stood alone on the balcony outside my chambers, watching the moon swell toward fullness. He found me there, his presence soft but unmistakable. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "This isn't how I wanted your first weeks here to feel." I turned toward him and noticed the dark shadows beneath his eyes, the tension carved into his posture. "You're a king," I said. "I know that comes with demands." He stepped closer, our arms brushing. "Even so, I've dropped you into the deep end and left you there." "I can handle it," I replied. The words surprised me with how true they felt. "I'm stronger than I look." Something in my voice made him smile. "Yes," he said softly, "you are." His hand slipped into mine, our fingers fitting together like they'd always known how. "How are the dreams?" They had started about a week after I arrived, sharp, vivid visions that tore me from sleep in the dead of night, my heart racing. Sometimes I saw ancient rituals beneath open skies, sometimes brutal battles where wolves and humans fought side by side, other times quiet scenes, mothers teaching daughters in hushed voices, passing down secrets meant to survive generations. "They're getting stronger," I admitted. Last night I saw women standing in a circle under the moon. They were holding hands and singing, but I couldn't understand the words. Nathaniel nodded, calm and unsurprised. "Your gifts are waking as the equinox draws near. Those dreams aren't imagination. They're memories left behind by moon speakers who came before you." I studied his face. "How do you know all of this?" It was a question I'd asked before, always answered halfway. This time he didn't pull away. "My grandmother," he said, his thumb brushing slow circles against my palm. "She was the last alpha to be guided by a moon speaker. Before she died, she made me swear I'd watch for the signs of their return. She believed the territories would never truly heal without the balance they bring." Understanding clicked into place. "That's why you've attended every regional ceremony for years," I said. "You weren't just showing presence, you were searching." He turned fully toward me, lifting his hand to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "I was looking for hope," he said simply. "I found you instead." The softness in his voice made my chest ache. In moments like this, it was easy to forget my fear that I mattered more for what I might become than for who I already was. "What if I'm wrong?" I whispered. "What if these dreams lead nowhere? What if I never become what everyone expects?" His gaze didn't waver. "Then you will still be Lara," he said firmly. "The woman who meets every challenge without running, the woman who brings warmth into places that have been cold for far too long." A faint smile touched his lips. "The woman who refuses to let her king win at chess." I laughed before I could stop myself. "That's because you're terrible at it, all force, no grace. So you always say." His smile faded, replaced by something serious and steady. Lara, there's something you need to hear before the ceremony. Whatever power you gain or don't gain, and whatever political strength our bond brings, none of that comes first. He squeezed my hand. I chose you, and I will keep choosing you every single day. The honesty in his gaze stole the air from my lungs. Before doubt could stop me, I lifted myself onto my toes and brushed my mouth against his. It was my choice, my move. The first kiss we'd ever shared, he reacted instantly. His arms locked around me, firm and possessive, pulling me closer as the kiss deepened. A low sound rolled through his chest, rough, pleased, unmistakably wolf. When we finally pulled apart, his eyes had changed again, gold burning just beneath the surface. "You're making it very hard to keep my vow," he murmured, his mouth drifting to my neck. The heat of his breath against my skin sent a sharp shiver down my spine. "Maybe that's exactly what I'm trying to do," I whispered. A short, strained laugh left him, temptress. Then his expression hardened with effort. Some promises still matter. He stepped back, forcing space between us as if distance were a shield. "3 more nights, little wolf," he said quietly. "After that, nothing will ever keep us apart again." Then he turned and left. The night air rushed in where his warmth had been, cold and empty. I wrapped my arms around myself, unease settling deep in my chest. In 3 days, I would be bound for life to a man who still felt like a beautiful, dangerous mystery. In 3 days, the ancient calendar claimed my sleeping power would fully awaken. In 3 days, my world would shift again. My fingers closed around my mother's pendant, the cool metal grounding me. "What am I supposed to do?" I whispered into the dark. "How can I become what everyone needs me to be?" The silence was answered with a distant howl from the mountains beyond the city walls. Long, lonely, aching, it echoed exactly how I felt. Sleep refused to come the night before the autumn equinox. My chambers felt too small, the air too thick. Restless, I slipped from my bed, pulled a cloak over my nightdress, and moved barefoot through the palace halls. The guards watched me pass, respectful and calm. None tried to stop me. Nathaniel's doing, I was sure, his quiet promise that I would never feel trapped again. My steps carried me to the archives, a vast chamber heavy with the scent of dust and age. I'd been rushed through it during my lessons, never given time to truly look. Tonight, something tugged at me, guiding me deeper until I reached a section that felt older than the rest. The books there were worn and fragile, their covers cracked with time. One stood out immediately, a slim volume bound in pale blue leather, its spine completely blank. When I opened it, my breath caught. The pages were filled with elegant handwriting, flowing and intimate. Detailed sketches covered the margins, moon phases, ritual circles, and healing herbs. A moonspeaker's journal. The voice came from behind me. I startled so badly the book nearly slipped from my hands. An elderly woman stepped into the light, her silver hair braided with care, her posture still regal despite her years. I recognized her at once, Lady Alina, Nathaniel's great-aunt, one of his most trusted advisors. I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I didn't mean to intrude." She smiled softly. "You aren't intruding, I've been expecting you." Her gaze dropped to the book. "That belonged to my mother, the last royal moonspeaker." My confusion must have shown. "Your mother was a moonspeaker?" "Yes," she said, moving closer, "but the gift doesn't always pass directly. Sometimes it skips generations, sometimes it sleeps, waiting for the right moment." Her sharp eyes studied me. "Your mother came from the Eastern Territories, didn't she?" I nodded, startled. "How did you know?" "The pendant," she said gently. "It marks the Eastern moonspeakers, healers, and dreamwalkers." Her fingers hovered near the silver crescent without touching it. "I never inherited the power myself, but I learned to recognize it, and I saw it in you." My throat tightened. "The dreams, they've already started." She nodded, unsurprised. "And other things," I admitted. "Yesterday, I knew a servant was outside my door before she knocked. The day before that, I felt Nathaniel's anger from across the palace." Lady Alina's expression softened with approval. "Your abilities are waking naturally. That's a blessing. Some moonspeakers needed harsh rituals to force the change." She gestured to the journal. "Take it, it belongs with you now." As I accepted the book, the question I'd been carrying for weeks finally spilled out. Why didn't anyone tell me the truth? My mother had to know. My father kept the pendant safe, but he never explained it. Pain flickered across the old woman's face. "Fear," she said quietly. "After the last great war, moonspeakers were hunted, blamed for shifting alliances. Many hid their gifts and taught their daughters to do the same." Her eyes met mine, heavy with understanding. "And now," she added softly, "the world is changing again." She rested her hand on my shoulder, light but steady. "Your mother probably wished you could grow up ordinary," I murmured, the words tasting bitter. "That whatever she passed on to you would stay asleep, but it didn't." "No," she replied quietly, and then after a pause, "Maybe that's exactly how it was meant to be. The lands are out of balance, they need correcting." Her face hardened with thought. "Nathaniel is not a bad king, but he rules with force alone. Strength without balance always rots into rebellion or worse, stillness." I tightened my grip on the journal until my fingers ached, and I'm supposed to be that balance? My chest felt tight. I don't even understand what I am. Lady Eleanor surprised me then. She smiled, soft, almost kind. You will, it's already inside you, in your blood, in your dreams. Her gaze dropped to the book pressed against my chest, and now here. I opened my mouth to ask more, but the palace suddenly erupted. Distant shouts echoed through the halls, boots pounded stone, steel rang. Lady Eleanor went still, her head turning slightly, listening to something beyond my reach. What is it? I asked, cold slid down my spine. Intruders. East Wing, her eyes locked onto mine, sharp and urgent. Go to your chambers, lock the door, guards will come. I hesitated, leaving her felt wrong. Go, she ordered. The future queen does not wander unguarded while the palace burns. Future queen. The words felt unreal, but the weight of them shoved me forward. I hugged the journal to my chest and ran. The corridors swallowed me in shadows and torchlight. My bare feet barely made a sound against the stone, but the noise ahead grew louder, growls, crashes, the wet, brutal sounds of wolves fighting in tight spaces. I had just reached my door when someone leapt out of a side passage. I froze, terror locking my breath until I saw her face. Vivian, I gasped. My stepmother smiled, sharp and ugly. Ara, how lucky. Two men stepped out behind her, already half-shifted. Their claws scraped the floor. Their eyes glowed with hunger. I backed away, heart slamming. What are you doing? Fixing a mistake, Vivian snapped. Did you honestly think I'd let you sit on that throne? Her eyes burned. A half-formed nobody who should have been drowned the day she was born. I swallowed. The Alpha King chose me. Her laugh was cold. And he can choose again. She stepped closer. A bond only matters if both parties live. If you were to die tonight, tragically, well, she shrugged. He would grieve, then he would move on, maybe to someone worthy. Her daughter, everything made sense then, the secrecy, the control. The rage when Nathaniel chose me, it was never about the pack, it was about power. You won't escape this, I said, still backing away. Nathaniel will know. Will he? She asked softly. With the palace in chaos from a border clash we so thoughtfully arranged. She flicked her hand. Take her, make it messy. They charged, fear cracked something open inside me, not my body, my senses. The world expanded. I felt the moon hanging above the palace, its pull sliding through walls and stone, reaching for me. I felt heartbeats fast, slow, vicious, felt hatred, fear, and hunger like heat on my skin. My hand found my mother's pendant. The moment my fingers closed around the silver, power surged out of me. The air slammed forward like a wave, throwing the men back as if they'd hit a wall. Vivian stumbled, her triumph collapsing into confusion, then fear. What did you do? She whispered. I'm not what you think, I said. My voice sounded deeper, steadier, wrong in a way that felt right. I never was. The pendant burned warm in my palm and knowledge poured into me. Old words, older than the palace, older than the crown. I spoke to them without knowing how, feeling them bend the space around us. The two men dropped to their knees, clutching their heads, howling in pain. Vivian stayed upright, but her face drained of color. Moonspeaker, she breathed. The words struck like truth settling into place. Yes, it fit. Leave, I said. Go far from here, never return. My gaze locked onto hers. If you do, I'll know, always. I don't know if it was my warning or the force behind it that broke her. But Vivian backed away, dragging her fallen wolves with her, fear finally stronger than ambition. And I stood alone in the corridor, the moon's power still humming through my blood. When they vanished down the corridor, the strange heat that had filled my body drained away all at once. My knees started to shake. The world tilted. I barely reached my chambers before my strength gave out and I collapsed hard onto the cold floor. The journal slipped from my fingers. It hit the stone and fell open, the pages spreading wide, my breath caught. There, sketched in dark ink, was the exact moment I had just lived. A woman standing firm, a pendant blazing at her throat, power bursting outward in sharp lines as wolves were forced back by an invisible wall. Me, Ara. Nathaniel's voice reached me before he did. The door flew open. He stormed in with Lydia and several guards at his heels. His face was raw with panic until his eyes found me alive on the floor. Relief crashed over him, fierce and uncontrolled. Are you hurt? I shook my head. I still couldn't find my voice. My chest felt too tight, my thoughts spinning too fast. He didn't wait for words. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled me against him, crushing me to his chest. His heart was racing, hammering beneath my ear like he'd run through fire to reach me. There was an attack, he said urgently. A coordinated breach. They hit multiple points of the palace at once. My hands clenched in his tunic. When I couldn't find you, Vivian, I swallowed hard. She was here, she tried to kill me. A growl tore out of him, deep and violent. I felt it vibrate through his ribs and into my bones. Where is she? Gone, I said. I stopped her. I pulled back just enough to see his face. Nathaniel, it happened. What you warned me about, I felt it, the power, I used it. Something shifted in his eyes. Shock gave way to understanding. Then pride, sharp, blazing, and so intense it stole my breath. Tell me. I did. At first my words stumbled, uneven and rushed. Then steadier, stronger as I described the fear, the pressure, the moment everything inside me had ignited. I told him how the force had risen without thought, how it had wrapped around me like instinct itself and driven the danger away. As I spoke, his concern softened into awe. "The equinox isn't until tomorrow," he murmured, "but threat and necessity can force the change early." His fingers brushed my cheek, gentle, almost reverent. "How do you feel?" I searched for the answer. Different, yes, sharper. I could feel the world breathing around me, threads connecting life to life, sound to movement, emotion to intention. It was overwhelming, powerful, and somehow right. "Complete," I said quietly. His smile held everything at once: love, pride, desire, a hunger that echoed the new heat stirring in my own blood. "My queen," he whispered. This time it wasn't a title, it was true. The equinox ceremony the next day was nothing as I expected, and exactly what it needed to be. More because as I stood beneath the open sky, surrounded by leaders from all 5 territories, I could feel them. Their emotions rolled through the air like unseen currents. Curiosity, doubt, hope. Fear, every glance carried weight, every breath mattered. Less because in the end, all the symbols and traditions fell away. It came down to Nathaniel and me, standing face to face inside the sacred circle, choosing each other before gods and wolves alike. "I choose you," he said, his voice steady as it carried across the silent gathering. "Not for what you are or what you may become, but for who you already are. I choose your courage, your compassion, your quiet strength. I choose to stand beside you, to protect you, to honor you as my equal and my mate from this day until my last." The words were traditional. The conviction behind them was not. My eyes burned. When it was my turn, the formal response felt empty in my mouth. "I choose you," I began, and then let the script fall away. "I choose the man who saw me when I was invisible, who found value in me when I had forgotten it myself. I choose your vision, your will, your strength, and your gentleness. I choose to stand beside you, to steady you, to walk with you through darkness and light from this day until my last." The bond snapped into place the moment my final words faded, not a chain. A bridge, the connection surged through me, warm and electric. I gasped as awareness flooded in, Nathaniel not just before me but with me, inside me. His emotions rang clear as my own, his eyes widened. He felt it too. Later I would learn this bond was unique to Moonspeaker lineages, a joining of spirit as much as body, deeper than instinct, stronger than flesh. The feast afterward blurred into motion and sound. Faces, voices, oaths, promises. But I watched it all with new sight now, seeing beyond smiles and speeches to the feelings beneath. Most of the visiting leaders still held caution, but it softened as they saw Nathaniel's devotion and felt my steady presence beside him. Skepticism turned to respect. And for the first time, I stood among them not as a question, but as an answer. Lady Eleanor caught me alone for once, slipping through the crowd as she had planned it. Her sharp eyes glinted with quiet triumph as she tilted her head toward the rival pack leaders nearby. They were laughing together, sharing drinks, standing too close to be enemies. "You've already started changing things," she said softly, almost pleased. "They can feel it. They don't know why, but they know something is different." "The balance you warned me about?" I asked. She nodded. "Nathaniel forced them together with power and necessity. That was his role." Her voice lowered. "You'll hold them together with understanding, with mercy." Her twisted hand rested over mine for a brief moment, warm and steady. "Together you'll build something this world hasn't seen in generations, real peace." The celebration roared on around us, but my attention kept drifting to Nathaniel across the hall. The bond between us pulled tight, like an invisible cord wrapped around my chest. When our eyes met, the noise faded. I knew he felt it too, the same ache, the same need to finish what we had begun in the sacred circle. Much later, when the hall had emptied and silence settled over the palace, we stood together in the chambers that were now ours. Moonlight spilled through the tall window, washing the city below in silver. Nathaniel's arms wrapped around me from behind, strong and protective, his chin resting gently on my head. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. I leaned into him, breathing him in, grounding myself in his warmth. "None." Even with everything waiting for us, duty, resistance, danger, I turned to face him, especially knowing what's ahead. All my life I had been told I was weak, wrong, a mistake. I lifted my hand to his face, feeling the rough edge of his stubble under my fingers. "You showed me that what made me different was never a flaw, it was my strength. How could I ever regret choosing that?" His smile was slow and soft in the moonlight. "My wise queen, you're equal," I corrected, steady and sure. "Always," he said. He pulled me close, his kiss familiar but gentler now, filled with care instead of conquest. Through our bond, his emotions poured into me, desire wrapped in protectiveness, fierce joy, and something deeper and steadier than anything I had ever known. Love that had grown from recognition to choice to an unbreakable promise. As we moved toward the bed, my thoughts drifted to the girl I used to be, the terrified child locked away, taught to believe she was nothing. If I could speak to her now, I would tell her to endure, to trust the small light inside her even when the world tried to smother it. I would tell her that being different never meant being broken and that true strength came from choosing who you are no matter the cost. I had been hidden, ignored, made small, and still the Alpha King had seen me. He had chosen me. And at last, I had learned to choose myself.